Well, it's now my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Frank LoBiondo, the Chairman of the Aviation Subcommittee of the U.S. House of Representatives Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. On behalf of the Airline Pilots Association, we appreciate Representative LoBiondo's leadership of this very, very important committee, which has jurisdiction over all aspects of civil aviation, including safety, infrastructure, labor, commerce, and international issues. And even prior to that, the Congressman has a long history of transportation knowledge going back to his work experience running a trucking firm, and then also involvement in committee work in maritime modes as well as highway and transportation infrastructure. So I don't think it's an understatement to say that this person really gets it. He gets infrastructure and he gets transportation. As chairman, Representative LoBiondo has shown a keen interest in United States aviation issues, especially such as the one we're here to talk about today, NextGEN. Since 1995, he has served his constituents from New Jersey's 2nd Congressional District, which incidentally is home to the William J. Hughes Technical Center. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please join me in welcoming the Honorable Frank LoBiondo.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Sean, very much. I very much appreciate the opportunity to join you this morning briefly. I apologize. I know the schedule had to be adjusted. One of those schedule changes that I had no choice on that got put on yesterday afternoon. But I really do appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you. It is a great cross-section, and I've had an opportunity over the years, and especially the last couple of months, I think, to have a really good, continuing, substantive dialogue. Chairing the Aviation Subcommittee was an aspiration, a dream, and a tremendous honor that I am trying to make the most of. And to make the most of, recognizing the limitations we have, to try to focus on getting results. I've had the opportunity to speak to the NextGEN Advisory Committee briefly, to a few other groups, and with the subcommittee, to try to focus on results. One of the things that we've done, especially with the topic we're here with today, NextGEN, is to have the stakeholders together and really listen. I mean, members of Congress, God bless all of us, 535 of us, we have very little expertise in any particular area, yet we are making critical decisions for the nation, and sometimes without any input from those of you who are in the real world every day. My mission as a member of Congress has been to try to change that so that we're focused on the real world. We're focused on using your expertise and listening to you. So essentially, right off the bat, that means do no harm, and Congress hasn't been very good at that lately either. There's been a lot of harm that's been done in one way or another. But with NextGEN, as you know, there's so much at stake for the nation. There's such potential that we have as a country, and there's so much at stake for all of you individually as stakeholders. And for the traffic controllers and the pilots, if we talk about stakeholders, who has a more important role? I mean, if we get into NextGEN, everybody's got an important role. But if you're a pilot or you're an air traffic controller, well, you're critical to all of this. So, as I've said before, we've had a lot of bumps in the roads. We're frustrated, we're sometimes angry, sometimes baffled by why we can't seem to move faster, why the FAA seems to be bogged down. You know the whole story. 22 short-term extensions, a 2-week unconscionable shutdown that never should have been, a whole bunch of other things that have gotten into the pot that always seem to mess things up. But now we appear to be at a point where we have an administrator, we have someone who's recently been appointed to head up NextGEN, that we can focus on really getting the dialogue going. And I like what you're doing. I'm disappointed I can't be here for the whole day, looking at your agenda, looking at the speakers, looking at the breakout programs. But I hope to be able to get feedback from what goes on here today and what continues to go on in your world, your stakeholder world, about your ideas, where the problems are, what we need to do to get things moving. Most of the time, the model on the Hill with Congress is for a subcommittee or a full committee to hold a hearing. And many of you have seen those hearings and been to those hearings. They're very formal. There are cameras, there are reporters, there are witnesses, there are statements, there's a 5-minute clock. You know, sometimes things can get done with that mode, but if you really want to get to listening, you've got to have a different agenda. You've got to move the cameras out of the room. You've got to move the reporters out of the room. And that's something we've started to do. And a number of you have participated in some of those, what we call stakeholder listening sessions, where we want to be able to get your take, because separating what's being said on one side from what's being said on the other side to get to what really the problems are, and then what we can do. So some things we want to do just aren't within the realm of reality right now, and some things that we want to do, we should have been able to do a year ago. So where do we put our focus? The communications for me is extremely important, the level of communications, understanding what each group believes is key and critical as we move forward. And we're keeping an eye on overall oversight. Besides NextGEN, the reauthorization bill, which we're already starting to get ideas on, because we don't want to get anywhere close to the disaster that we had with the last one, where we had a lapse and a shutdown. And I think with the new chairman of the full committee, Bill Schuster, understanding this, we've really got a good track to go on. So the additional motivation for me, the FAA's Technical Center, which is in my district and I spend a lot of time at, certainly is going to do all the validation for the NextGEN work from across the country. And understanding what they do and how they do it, for me, who's a non-techie, it's been challenging in this very technical world that NextGEN is involved in to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted properly. But it's been very helpful to get the information here, to get on the ground at the Tech Center, to listen to what they're having to say. We have a new director there. I think Wilson was very good, Wilson Felder, but the new director, it's always the case. There's new energy, there's new enthusiasm, there are new ideas that we're meeting with. I'm meeting with him to try to understand how we can incorporate them in, all focused on what NextGEN is doing, what it should be doing, and where it goes from here. So one of the things that I talked about at the NextGEN Advisory Committee, and a couple of people earlier today that we chatted about this, most members of Congress maybe have heard the term NextGEN. They don't know much about it. The whole country needs to know more about it. All of us eat it, sleep it, get it intravenously. The rest of the country does not. So it's important for members of Congress who could care less, my colleagues who'd probably care less about me going to them and lobbying for something and trying to convince them of something. But what they do care about, they care about employers in their district. They care about voters in their district. They care about constituents. And that's a long-term process to have those meetings with members. As you are spread out and you look at the reach that you have as stakeholders with all the various moving parts and companies that are involved, this is an undertaking that we've got to move on, because I think we're going to be in good shape even with this 800-pound gorilla called sequestration. We don't like it, but I'm hopeful we can maneuver through the minefield. But a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, we cannot afford any slippage. And that slippage means that we all have to be having our shoulder to the wheel at the same time. You have done that magnificently. I applaud you for what you've done. I promise to continue to be as strong a partner as possible and to be as involved as possible with you. And for each and every one of you that feels you might have a need, the door to my office, the door to the Aviation Subcommittee, that office is open. We want to hear from you. We want the information that you have that will help us out. Okay, well, thank you very much. Hope to be in touch with all of you again soon. Thanks.